My job was to take the footage of the feather, position it in there, and manipulate it through frame. I was animating with a system called MM2, which was a 2D animation system. So it's like I had the feather image and I could adjust it, you know, X, Y, and Z, and I could rotate it, and I could change the pivot point and rotation, but I wasn't doing 3D animation of a feather. We would never have been able to do that back in those days. In some ways, it was really harder to do it the way we did it for me as an animator, because there was only, you know, 5-6 seconds of usable footage, and then I'd have to do another section. So I also had to marry up different parts of the feather footage, and in MM2 position them so I was making jump cuts from one section of feather footage to the next and make that seamless as well. And the shot, I can't remember how long it is. I'm sure you can look it up, but it's a really long shot. And again, back then our technology didn't allow us to have movies that would run that long. MM2, I could only load up, you know, 5 seconds or whatever it was of the background. So I had to, you know, work. I could have one MM2 file, but I could only look at part of it for, you know, one part of it at a time. So being an old technology person like I was, I actually, out of mothballs at ILM, I pulled out that original video editing system that I'd been hired to operate with, which I knew was still around, and I literally used a video camera to shoot sections, the little 5-second sections that I could load up one at a time on my computer. I shot it off the monitor with a video camera and used that editing system to paste it together. I had the background again on video, and I used the switcher to not composite, but just to blend between the two, a 50-50 blend, so I could see the feeling of the continuous motion. So I'd work on a few sections, and then I'd say, okay, I need to see how this is all working together. So I'd get up my video camera, and people were kind of laughing at me a little bit, because here I am, you know, I'm making the switch from practical over to CG, and what I'm doing, I'm getting the oldest equipment in the company to come over. This old video camera and 3/4-inch video, but it worked. I was able to see it, the whole thing, and to show it to people like Ken Ross and say, okay, here's what it looks like, which was very useful to see.
How did you get it out to film at that time?
You know, you're going to have to ask Linda Siegel, who was the TD on that shot, or somebody else about. I mean, again, it's like, I don't even remember. I don't even think they could render like the full frame. They were rendering sections of frames at a time overnight, so it took forever. But one of the lessons we learned on that, which is still applicable today, I think most people who work in CG are used to it by now, but you're working on a monitor, a small monitor, and sometimes your perceptions of scale will be different than when you see that projected on a big screen. And I remember we did a test film out of the feather shot. We thought the animation was pretty much there, but we wanted to see the whole shot and see it on the screen. And every time the feather came up closer to camera, it was too big. On the big screen, it was like, wait a minute, that's too big for a feather. So I just had to go back in the animation, and every time it was close to camera, I had to like back it off a little bit. So lesson learned.